Hey, it's David, and you're listening to the Tonebase Classical Guitar Podcast. Don't mean for self-promotion, but I wanted to let you guys know, especially any LA listeners out there, that I'm giving my senior recital for my studies at USC Thornton in a couple weeks on May 8th. And the concert's going to be at 8 p.m. at Art Share LA, wonderful little art gallery with really neat stage and venue. Right in the Arts District downtown near Little Tokyo. And the first half of the program is going to be a fun solo set, works of Kost, Tarega Jobim, and David Russell's arrangement of Handel's keyboard suite with the infamous Passacaglia that we all love. The second half of the program is going to feature chamber works, the Tedesco Fantasia for guitar and piano, sub cello and guitar duets of Villalobos and Bartok. And then I'll also be giving my own interpretation of Electric Counterpoint. Been having a blast over the past couple months recording and mixing all the parts to be able to do this live performance. So anyway, if you happen to be in LA, May 8th, 8 p.m., hope to see you at ArtShare LA. Today, Gohar Vardanyan's joining me on the show. Wonderful player and really great teacher with a strong online presence, especially through Tonebase and other platforms. Before the interview, I wanted to play a really neat arrangement that she made of Defia's La Vida Breve. This is a very popular tune. I'm sure many of you have already heard it. Very common to be heard as a guitar duo, but she pulls it off wonderfully as a solo transcription. So here is Defia's La Vida Breve. teacher with a great online presence, especially you've done quite a few videos that I know are very popular on the tonebase platform. You do videos with Strings by Mel, and you've also written 4 books now with Mel Bay.
Yeah, it's 4.
Wow, that's fantastic. When did you start getting into this side of teaching?
I think it's sort of it happened naturally. When I graduated, you kind of just don't know what to do, with yourself afterwards. And for me, a lot of it happened not necessarily by choice, not to say that I didn't want to, but a lot of it had to do with my immigration status. So like the whole entire thing when you just kind of get into a line of work. I was on the F1 visa for like every international student, and I needed to change it to the O1 visa so that I would be able to play concerts in this country. And eventually I had the intention of making this my permanent residence.
Yeah.
So Strings by Mel, the current owner of Strings by Mel, John Wunsch, you probably always see his name signed on the bottom of all the newsletters.
Yeah.
He used to be the Interlaken guitar teacher when I was at Interlaken.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So we had a more like personal relationship, and they've done so much tremendous like help in terms of my visas. So the idea was that because to apply for the visa, I needed some kind of employer. And we created this basically making instructional videos for their channel as a kind of work for Strings by Mel.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and then I was also like on tour, like sponsored by Strings by Mel, and I was able to play concerts and build my portfolio so that eventually I'd be able to apply for all these visas.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So we started with the very, very initial idea was to test out strings. Like they would just send me a whole lot of strings and I would test them and make recordings of them. But we realized that's subjective. Like you have the recording quality, the guitar I'm using, the kind of player I am. So that was our initial thing. That's what we were going to do. We decided that instructional videos would be more useful and probably more practical.
Yeah. String choice is such a personal
exactly.
decision.
Yeah, and it's
so many
dependent.
factors. I mean, I used to be an alliance player with Savarez for years.
Well, yeah,
10
years I played on
10
those
years,
strings.
Yeah. I think I was on those for 5 or 6 years. So then I changed to a new guitar, and they just didn't work. There's so many different variables.
I changed on the same guitar. I just kind of got sick of the carbon sound, and I switched to the nylons. But
there is this amazing sustain and brilliance from carbon, but there is some of that silky, warm tone that you just totally lose, no matter how hard you work with it.
So the teaching, I kind of fell into it. And with the videos, in terms of like the online teaching, because that's, I think, most what people see, except for my own private students.
Yeah.
It was that. And then the books, again, we ended up writing the books, which really helped with the process for the immigration as well. But they started with articles. I wrote articles for the Mel Bay blog, which I don't know if it still is in existence. And those became popular, and based on those, since people were reading and like, hey, why don't you write a book? One book, and then the next one. The first one was the warm-up, the complete warm-up. That's like probably the most popular and the most practical one.
Okay.
So it kind of started like that. It was something else, and then it turned into something bigger.
Oh, that's so cool. And so you've got the warm-up book. You also have a Crystal Harmonics titled book.
That was,
Is that the first book?
The very first
on
one.
Harmonics for the classical guitar?
I don't know. Or? I doubt it. I doubt it's the first one. But that was also based on an article. The article on how to play harmonics on the guitar was the most popular article they had. Like, just, I don't know how many readers, views they had. So like, hey, why don't you expand on it and make a book? And that one, it's nothing like scientific. I just, from a practical standpoint, I try to approach those books so that they're for a wider audience, so it doesn't have anything scientific in it in terms of like all the frequencies and the overtones. It's just from experience of a classical guitarist trying to make a harmonic sound good. What do you do? So I made it into very simple terms, like what I'd like to see how they're written, so that there's so many different ways of writing harmonics. So just from a practical standpoint.
Yeah. Did you go over all the different ways that they have been noted?
As much as I could find.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's why it's not totally comprehensive or science-based or anything, because there's only so much music that one can read in a
and I'm sure someone's writing a new way of...
Yeah, I'm sure. So it's from the experience of just like I just kind of picked what I think most people would have encountered.
Yeah,
Nothing too obscure, not obscure repertoire or anything, just like from traditional repertoire of earlier 20th century publications to now, to like more computer, like Sibelius and finale-based publications. And there are all enough differences in there to have the book filled up a little bit.
That's so interesting. That was one of the most popular blog posts for Mel Bay. Because I know with tonebase, the tuning video that Mersha did is very popular. And I think it's, for certain simple concepts like tuning or harmonics, I think sometimes we skip over those in pedagogy. And yet they're
and those
so
are so
important.
Basic. They're so basic. With harmonics, I can see why it's confusing because you can get a pretty sound on a 12th fret and you take that somewhere else and it doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
And then with tuning as well, now we kind of rely on the automatic, the mechanical tuners, which I do as well. I don't really admit to it, but I have one attached on my guitar headstock. But really tuning by ear, trying to find the compensation you have to make for the guitar to sound. That's not something you learn in your first lesson, because we're just like, hey, tune the guitar, turn on the snark,
Download the tuning app on your iPhone or Android.
But that's I can see why, because that video is very popular because you want to learn. And people tune differently as well. I tune my first string as like my source, my pitch source, and I tune everything to the first string. People sometimes tune the fifth string and tune everything to the fifth string. So everyone has a different method they have developed over time.
And then I know Roland Diens, for certain pieces that he wrote, he would actually notate certain chord progressions to arpeggiate before playing to make sure the kind of temperaments were settled. So man, he must have had quite a good ear for tuning. You would go crazy if you heard me playing.
You have to adjust. And for a little while, I had intonation issues on my guitar. And no matter how I tuned, it was just the third string was off. And I've had it fixed last year. But that whole adjustment that everything's in tune according to the app. But it's actually not in tune when you're playing. And you have to find a way to make it sound good in the key that you're playing in.
Yeah, absolutely. You're playing on remind me the name of your...
It's a Canadian guitar, actually. It's a Jean Rompré.
And I was seeing on your Facebook page that it was the 5th year of you playing with this guitar?
This year will be 6th.
Or number 6.
Yeah, I got it at the GFA in Louisville in 2013. So
and you just picked it up and fell in love with it.
I saw I saw how pretty it looked. And I had no intentions of buying a guitar that year, but sometimes you go in and without intentions and you walk out with a guitar. So once I switched, that's the only guitar I've played. So in July it will be exactly 6 years.
Oh, that's awesome. There is something when you pick up the guitar for you. It's a magical feeling.
It has to match. I love it, but somebody else might play it and could be totally not to their taste because everyone likes a different sound. They play differently. Personally, for me, for example, I played on a Smallman once, a modern Smallman, and I was playing on it, and it didn't sound like I would imagine it would, because the way I play with rest stroke, with pushing the guitar to its limit, sometimes good or bad, the Smallman didn't respond to that particular instrument. And then when I played some Scarlatti and I kind of backed off, that's when that instrument sounded like an organ in my hands. But that's not how I usually play. So for me to play that guitar, I would have to change the way I play to make it sound good, at least that particular one. So you have to find what matches you, what matches your technique, your idea of the sound.
Yeah, Smallmans, they do require this kind of... I'm not a fan of them myself, but...
it wasn't it was just, it didn't work.
They require a certain touch to the strings, I guess, where it has to be very... light in a sense, and very I don't know the word I'm looking for, but very calculated in a sense.
I realized playing a forte rest stroke scale did not work. It just did not sound pretty at all. And on my guitar it sounded decent enough, so and then free stroke light touch, it just sang. But I wasn't willing to change my technique. Not that I was going to buy a small one, but say someone gave it to me. I don't think I would be willing to change the way I play.
Also, it's scary thinking about how thin those soundboards are. I've heard stories of people just dropping a cell phone and totally caving in. I'm
lucky my guitar is a sturdy guitar. It's the back and sides are ebony, And
Oh, okay,
it's
yeah.
a thick piece of ebony. The back is carved. It's like round. It looks like a violin or cello back, and it's carved to that shape. So it's pretty thick. It has no bracing on the back because it doesn't need it since
Yeah.
it's already is thick. And the sides are double-sided. It's
Oh,
still
okay.
ebony, but it's double-sided. So the back of it is like sturdy. The front it's not a double top. It's single. I don't believe it's very thin. I can't really tell because it has like those thinner tornavos. Is that what
Mm-hmm.
it's called? Like it looks like a little tunnel at the sound hole. So when you look at it, it looks very thick, but it's just the rim. And I did drop it by accident. And I did crack the sound hole, but the soundboard, it landed on its side. Nothing happened to the sides.
Yeah.
But the soundboard cracked a little bit. It was
But pretty sturdy.
traumatic. It was
in
pretty
general.
sturdy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, other than me not latching my case, for everyone
I think
listening out there,
I think
latch
it
your
hap-
cases.
I think it happens to everybody at some point.
I just thought an airline would break it for me before I did. You
Yeah,
know,
right?
and it's like I did, but it's repaired. It sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, it's good to know that the airlines don't destroy it. And
Yeah.
I love your Facebook page. You have so many great guitar tips and great posts coming out. And you show these photos. When you travel, you literally travel with a single backpack and your guitar.
I do.
Which is
I'm
crazy.
trying to break the stereotype that girls need a lot of things. Because, it's like the girl packs like 2 suitcases for a 2-day vacation, right? No, it's mostly for practical reasons. I'm traveling by myself. So I am the one carrying all that stuff. And the guitar is heavy enough. And then for domestic flights, you usually have to pay to check a bag.
Yeah.
And then you worry if it's going to make it in time. So I found that for a 2-day, 3-day trip, I don't need that much. And I still have all the necessities. That backpack, it has CDs that would be sold after the concert. It has my concert dress. It has my concert shoes, all the makeup and jewelry and all that stuff with the footstool. And so it fits everything. But you can plan out well, pick a dress you can fold very small, and it works.
You must be really good. Do you know that video game? I forgot the name of it.
Tetris?
Are you a Tetris
I was
player?
good at it when I was a kid, but I'm very good at packing things. Yeah,
I am not, as you can see over here. I can barely
You're very
fit.
compact. I think in some ways it's actually easier because as a guy traveling, you probably are wearing a suit, right? Your shoes are bigger size, your clothes are bigger size. So in some ways, I understand how like not everyone can travel with a backpack to go to a concert because you need to maybe even have a suit bag to not like fold your tuxedo or whatever into small squares.
I usually just throw a jacket on, And
it depends on your personal style and how you present yourself on stage. Some people dress more casually than others. So.
Yeah. And you're right. It is such a pain if you show up to a city, whether you got to play a concert or not.
And your suitcase is not there.
Yeah. Although sometimes it's nice because you can buy some free clothes with the vouchers. But it takes I swear, I did it once. I got a $100 voucher because I had a concert. And I told them, okay, I need to buy clothes. They gave me a $100 voucher. It took them 4 months to process it. So eventually it came through.
And also, do you want to deal with that stress? It's stressful
and
enough
keeping
that
the receipts and everything. And
and you're like, I'm there to play a concert.
I don't want to be shopping.
Yeah, I don't want to worry about things. Yeah, so I try to make it practical. And most of the time, most of my travel is within the United States. So I've figured out which airlines are nicer to me and which ones aren't. So far, I aim for Delta because they've been nice. Like just coming back from Louisville, actually, just right before, like I was the last person where they started checking bags because I was, third group to board. And they saw the guitar and the person ahead of me had to check their suitcase and they're like, that's not gonna fit, it's all full. I'm like, well, can I try? Can I ask it for the closet? And she was like a little hesitant, but they're like, why don't you try? Like, and that particular flight did not have gate check service, like those pink tags. They did not have that.
It was gonna be a check.
So it was gonna be a check, which is scary. I'm like, it's kind of scary to check it. And they're like, why don't you try? And I walk on the board. The flight attendant made some room in the closet. She put in the closet, and my guitar made it.
Usually it's the flight attendants who want to help you out. It's the gate agents who don't want to let it go through.
And they're totally independent from each other. It's not. They say it doesn't fit, but the flight attendant's like, oh, it's totally gonna fit. So it's. Yeah,
it is
depends
a bit
on
of
who
an
you
odd
get.
setup. Yeah, but that's good.
Usually, being nice helps. I've never had to be aggressive. And I also am not that type of person who would. If I have to check it at the end of the day, I'll check it because it's not worth it to, have security involved or just be that person who just makes it difficult makes the flight late, whatever. There's 200 other people on the plane who want to get home. So I wouldn't argue to that point. And if they destroy it, it's insured. You know, it's like, at least I don't want it to be destroyed.
Well, the trick is you got to not tell them you have the insurance, get the refund from them, and then...
No, well, and then the case is soft. Like my case it's not a soft case, but it looks like it's a soft case. So it's more they're a bit more linear.
Yeah.
They don't see a hard case and automatically assume it's safe to check. So I've been able to get away with it. I haven't had to check it yet.
You just never know. I remember Scott Tennant was telling me this crazy story that he was trying to get his guitar on the flight, but there just wasn't room, and they told him you got to gate check it. He's reluctantly saying, okay, that's fine. And he's looking out the window, and he literally sees one of the I forgot the name of those workers, tarmac workers.
Oh, yeah.
He sees one of them take his guitar and look at his friends and do like an air guitar and starts driving away with it. And Scott starts freaking out. And he's yelling at the flight attendants, hey, you got to do something about this. They're taking my guitar.
Of course.
And they did not believe him. And then finally they radioed it in. And this guy comes back with the guitar and just throws it onto the conveyor belt. And you can tell he was probably going to take it, which is like terrifying to think of.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
But it's something you have to deal with. And if you're a concertizing musician, it's part of it, you know? It's like you have to travel. Some people have a backup guitar they travel with, you know. You have to insure it because it's just dumb not to. And
regardless of travel.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, you have to realize that hopefully you're not traveling with a one-of-a-kind instrument. But at the end of the day, it's an item that you are using, right? So it's there to serve a purpose. I love my guitar. I really do. But if it breaks, it's not the end of the world. It's
a piece of wood.
It's a piece of wood, and like it's a teamwork. It's the player and the piece of wood that creates a certain sound. But it's not the only guitar in the world. You know, you just have to kind of cut your losses financially so you could afford to get a new one. But yeah, it's I have an attachment to mine, but it's not worth a fight at the gate and all sorts of other things.
So speaking of all this air travel, do you have any concerts coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to Florida on Wednesday for
nice.
the Guitar Extravaganza, I believe it's called. It's Stephen Robinson is putting it up at the Stetson University. So I'm playing a concert. I'm sharing it with Matt Palmer.
That'll be fun.
This is the third time we're sharing a concert, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys should start playing duos or
everyone
something.
says that, but we live in different states. You know, everyone has our own, we are doing our own thing. But yeah, this is the third time we'll be sharing it. The first one was at Houston. Maybe you were there, I don't know. In 2013 we shared a concert, and then in Appalachian State we shared one, and this is the third time. So that's what's next. This coming week. And then after that it's New York. I'm playing a concert for the New York Guitar Society, or New York City Guitar Society, in April. And May is a little bit lighter. I don't have anything in May. And in June I'm going to Pittsburgh and to Houston again.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that's the lineup for now.
And what's on the program for these concerts? Or is it a bit varied?
No, it's the same. Well, with the one with Matt Palmer, it's half a program. Mm-hmm. So, but my full program right now, and it has been the same for the last, I think, 2 years or a year and a half, 2 years. I start with the Grand Solo by Fernando Sor, and I play Aguado's arrangement. So it's a little bit more flurry. Like I like it better. And then Un Sueño en la Floresta, and Cordoba and Sevilla. That's the first half. And the second half is Valses Poéticos, Evocación y Danza, and two of the 5 pieces, La Vida Breva being the second one, and the first one is from El Amor Brujo.
Quite a program.
I pick my favorites.
Yeah.
I pick my favorites.
That's awesome. What arrangement is it for the Granados?
Granados, I'm playing Paolo Pegueraro. I think I messed up the vowels there, but Italian, I believe he's Italian.
Yeah.
I saw Marchandila play on YouTube at that arrangement, and in the description box it said who the arranger was, and I liked that it seemed, first of all, that he kept the high octaves in the opening, and it seemed like playable on the guitar. It didn't seem too crazy
without sacrificing
and it still sounded it sounded beautiful on the instrument, even though it's a very piano piece. So I learned that one. I changed some fingerings, but I think everyone changes fingerings.
Oh, absolutely. It's a beautiful piece. And I didn't realize Aguado did an arrangement of the Grand Solo.
It's very It's more fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Soar's grand solo, I don't think I like it very much. It's like...
Because if I'm correct, there were actually 3 publications on Soar's front with the grand solo, and the first one was just tricky.
Yeah.
And not as guitaristic, at least to the general public at the time. And then I forgot the name of the publisher, but they released a second publication behind Soar's back, which was very toned down, much easier.
Okay.
Took out some modulations even because they were basically losing business because people weren't coming in to buy that score anymore because it was too hard. And Soar was furious, so then they kind of made an addition in between the two for the third one. And that's what most people
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
the 3 different
neither
ones.
was I till Brian Head showed
The
it
first
to
time
me.
I heard the grand solo was on Manuel Barrueco's record.
Yeah.
And that's how I thought it sounded. And then I took a score out and I'm looking at it and all of the fun stuff I liked about it wasn't in there.
Yeah.
So actually the first piece I worked on with Barrueco when I was a freshman was
grand
that
solo.
grand solo.
Oh,
so he gave me the arrangement that he used.
So does Aguado, at least compared to probably the third arrangement or the third publication that we're used to hearing, what does he add
There's
to the
a lot
piece
of
that's
more
different?
like, I don't remember exact differences because I never learned the Soar, but just comparing there are more arpeggios, like what Soar would have as blocked chords, or Aguado like made it arpeggiated. I think they're more flurries, a flurry kind of like those runs with the slurs. I think they're a bit more complicated. But I haven't looked at the Soar in so long that I can't like point out every single difference. It sounds more virtuosic, like when you're just listening to it.
Yeah, Soar wasn't, I mean, it's virtuosic writing in a sense, but he wasn't so much obsessed with that style of writing, at least compared to Giuliani, you know, so it's nice that Aguado kind of added some nice flourishes to it.
It sounds like it has like more energy behind it because you have more drive with the arpeggios, with the separated thing, rather than doing the same chord, you arpeggiate the chord.
And the arpeggios they're using ring finger, I'm assuming?
Yes, actually, I am because it goes across 3 strings. So instead of doubling the thumb, I do the thumb for the bass notes, and then I do I and A. So it does use the ring finger.
So maybe that's why he was blocking the chords, because I know Soar was very
he would not
anti-ring
use
finger. Which is so weird to think about. I mean, it makes sense, but it's quite different
We don't
today.
have that many fingers. It's nice to,
use them when we can.
And I'm a big advocate for all my students, I make them work on their A finger so that it's not this weakness that you have, because a lot of times we avoid using it because it isn't awkward. Sometimes you don't get the nicest sound out of it. It's hard to alternate M and A, and I try to make it so that there is no like weakness there. So you have more options for fingerings. It's easier because you don't have to use the others as frequently because you have another member of the team.
Yeah.
So,
and also the ring finger on the right hand carries so many melodies as well.
Yeah, it's under there. So if you can really develop a pretty sound out of the ring finger and use it easily, it makes it easier in some way. In the beginning, it might be hard because you can't use it. But once you learn to use it and it's an active finger that's almost the same as M and I, then it's another option you have. You can just throw in an A and solve a lot of awkward string crossings and stuff. So
no, it's I wonder maybe if Soar his ring finger was a shorter or longer length in proportion, or if he just simply did not like it.
Yeah, and I mean, when you have one person dictating a certain kind of musical, like a movement or whatever, he was Soar, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's very individual as well. Like he could have had his own weaknesses that he customized and tailored his music to and stuff, because that was the way he is. Let's say he didn't have a third finger, let's say, and I mean, I'm sure he did, but like someone who doesn't, he will customize it to what your weakness is so that you can play your own music.
Yeah.
But not everyone's the same, so.
And it's really fascinating to me thinking about how much classical guitar technique was emerging in all the debates back then, whether, is it okay to use free versus rest stroke and nails versus no nails, and ring finger versus no ring finger. And yes, there are a couple proponents to those debates these days, but nowadays
I think it's everything.
People would think you're crazy if you want to use your ring finger or
and
nails.
Same thing for the free stroke or rest stroke. Why limit yourself to just one? Make it so that I mean, I can understand like if you're trying to avoid the rest stroke because you do end up changing the sound quality, and you can have a big gap between going from a free stroke to a rest stroke. It can change the volume, the fullness, but then make your free stroke sound just as good as your rest stroke, and learn to control the rest stroke so you can balance them and you have access to everything. And instead of limiting, it's like, oh no, you're not allowed to use rest stroke here and there.
The other one people become obsessed with is the use of open strings. And yes, totally, if you have a certain beautiful melodic melody, you might want to avoid an open string there. But in regards to some harmonies and stuff, it just, if the guitar resonates with open strings, I usually say just go for it. I mean, I remember the masterclass with Paul Odette. He kept, well, not yelling, he's such a sweet guy. And Paul Odette's famous lutenist, professor at Eastman School of Music. But he was insistently saying, no, use open strings. Grab the resonance from the instrument. And it makes total sense because we play a quiet instrument. So if we're picking certain fingerings or closing certain chords, and it restricts.
You get into trouble when it doesn't sound natural. Like if you had a really beautiful melody up in a higher register above the 7th fret, and then you're just throwing in this one open E string, and it changes the color and it changes everything, then it's no longer a benefit. That added resonance is not worth the sacrifice of like the warmness you had, and all of a sudden you have this bright sound coming out. But if you can control it, and you have an instrument whose open E string, for example, doesn't just scream out, and you can mask it and you can put the open string in there and make your fingering easier, then do it. It just shouldn't be obvious, and so your music still flows.
So I've heard you play the Vocazione Danza, and what a piece, and the way you play it as well. It's been a favorite of yours for a while, right?
Yes, I've played it for a while. It's been on my program for a while, and I can't take it off. Like every time you go around thinking about what your program is going to be, and I've changed it around. I've taken pieces out. Some pieces I get sick of playing, and I'm like, it doesn't sound good anymore, so I just remove it. Vocazione Danza, I can't take it out. Same thing with like Sevilla and the Barrios, de Un Sueño and La Floresta. Those have stayed in the program, and things around it have changed. With Evocation and Dance, it's first of all, it has a nice story. It's the fact that it's based on El Amor Brujo. The evocation part, like once you explain it to an audience, to an unexperienced audience, it can sound a little bit, it can sound difficult to listen to, because it has dissonances, it's not necessarily modern, but it's still on the contemporary side. It's not like playing, I don't know, Tariga.
Yeah.
It has that edge to it. But once you explain what it is, like the evocation, like if someone can imagine a spirit being evoked, and you imagine like, I don't know, a person by the fire trying to like evoke a spirit to come back, then when they're listening to it, and that intensity that builds from the harmonics all through, like the dissonances, the little accented figures in there, and then it opens up with the big arpeggios and the huge, gigantic, loud like scale, the chord and the scale, and then it comes down and the dance comes in. You can really picture this imagery of a spirit being evoked, arriving, dancing, and then at the end of the piece, when everything gets quieter again, with an ending with the harmonics, with like the quietest possible way. They can imagine that. And a lot of times people have come up to me after the concert, like thanking that I have shared the story, because it made them enjoy the piece more, where they might have not understood what was happening otherwise. I mean, I think the tremolo parts are beautiful melodies, but there are things around it that to an unexperienced ear might be like, oh, what is that?
It's such a brilliant and haunting piece.
Yes, yeah.
Altogether. Also, it's very flamenco as well, in a sense. It uses so many flamenco tech.
It's based on Manuel de Falla's El Amor Brujo. There is material that he borrows it. I actually follow it from, I can never remember the English version. There's a dance I play, no, it's a song from El Amor Brujo right after Evocación de Danza that I pair with the La Vida Breve. I can never remember the English translation, but it uses that figure, so you can actually, the tam pam 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 pam, that part, you can see how it's borrowed from Evocation and Dance. The dance, the accents.
I don't know why I never realized
there are parts,
that. Yeah.
and you could find like throughout the entire El Amor Brujo, like where the material is borrowed from, it changed a little bit. Obviously, it's not exactly copy, but even at the very end of Evocación y Danza, the chord transitions, they're so de Falla-like.
Yeah.
So when you put them back to back, it makes sense. But the flamenco, there's the rasguero section, the scales, I guess, but it's mostly, I guess, the rasguero that reminds you of the flamenco thing.
And when I'm thinking about that piece, maybe I'm just a little biased because I've worked on Giacosa quite a bit over the past year or so. But it's in regards to at least Rodrigo's solo repertoire, there's, of course, the Adagio of Aramis. I think it's one of the most kind of dark and moving solo pieces he's written for the guitar. I mean, it's such a journey, and it's not that long of a piece either. It's only about 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, about 8 minutes.
I mean, it's not a short piece, but
for guitar standards, it's not a short piece. For
guitar standards, it's like it's a symphony now.
Yeah,
but it takes you on such a journey in such a relatively short amount of time. That's just
and
amazing
I usually
to me.
gravitate towards darker, sadder, heavier music. I'm not that person. I'm like the jolly, happy, always smiley person.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of my actual personality, but the music that I like is usually sad. It's usually heavier. It usually has a lot of low register, like heavy, kind of loud, lower basses, drop D tuning, drop G tuning. So that piece just has all of it. And the contrast that you have from the quietest quiet harmonics to just the fortissimo that you can get with the rasguero in the middle. It's more interesting that way.
It's so interesting to me that it always seems the best repertoire is very sad sounding music. I mean, not always, but, it's funny when I think about it. Besides Giacosa, the past year or two, that's probably the only kind of happy, jolly sounding piece I've worked on for the solo guitar. And when I'm thinking about what I listen to on Spotify and everything, a lot of it's really dark. I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of known as more of a jolly, happy person. It's interesting. I don't know what it is that appeals.
I feel for me, it strikes the emotional part almost more.
Yeah.
Because a happy song, it has like a lot of energy into it and it can strike a happy emotion. But the sad one, like it depends on how you feel. A sad song can make someone cry. If they're in the right mood, like something's going wrong in their life and they're also listening to a sad song, it'll probably push them over the edge and actually let them emote that. Not that I'm crying on stage, but it's more moving to me to hear something that's larger, like broader, heavier, rather than a happier kind of dance. Which I like that too, but it's not. There's
a time and place for it.
Like the things that I choose are usually like the 18th Caprice. It's so dark. The Monsters Caprice by Tedesco. The Caprichos
I don't think
de
I know
Goya.
that one.
It's the most popular one. It's the one.
I'm sure
you know that one.
it.
You know that one. It's the one TY plays in concerts. A lot of people have played it.
Okay.
It's so dark. It's so like sad, and out of all of them, it's the one I like because it's the sad one and kind of creepy.
Yeah. Well, the paintings are pretty creepy.
And that darkness is what's attractive.
Yeah, I just looked at those paintings, not the originals. But photos of them for the first time.
Yeah.
They're horrifying. I had no idea, but it makes sense with the music. It's beautiful writing from Tedesco's part.
So I'm not looking forward to the day that I have to take that piece out of my repertoire because it has to happen at some point, right? Like you can't just play the same thing for 10 years. So
we'll just you have to find a piece that's an
homage to
Invocación y Danza or something sadder.
Or something.
Thank you, Gohar, for being on the show. Please join me in 2 weeks for a conversation with the Slovenian guitarist Mak Grgic. We'll leave things today with Gohar's performance of Albeniz's Cordoba. I'm David Steinhardt, and we'll see you next time for the Tonebase Classical Guitar Podcast.